Series 1, we focused on the building of the cabin. Within this series, we're going to do a little mini-series on the systems of the cabin. We'll be talking about exciting things like the septic system, water, electric, and within electric, did we decide to go off-grid? The answer is no. Questions like, why didn't you go off-grid? Did you think about going off-grid? Would you consider solar? Did you consider solar? And the heating system. So we will be discussing those in small segments for you to enjoy.
What I'm standing by here is our 2,000 gallon concrete septic tank. Okay, I guess you could best describe this as the story of the septic tank lid mystery. When we were building the cabin a couple years ago, Deanne, we all know, came over to the cabin to meet the electrician. She got here a little bit early. One of the odd things she noticed was that the concrete lid, probably about like 80-pound concrete lid to our septic tank, was off.
So I came over to the property this morning to play with the dogs, and this had happened.
It clearly been on the night before, now it was off. Couldn't understand like why the lid would be off, why would somebody have taken this off. The other thing she noticed though is that it seemed to be like there were deer hair embedded into the concrete.
The most bizarre part of this is there's a bunch of deer prints all around the property, and there's deer hair on this. Who might have gotten this off?
So about this time the electrician drives up, Dee tells her, God, the funniest thing is this lid's off and it's like there's deer hair around it. And instantly he says, oh, I bet you somebody dumped a deer carcass in there. The hypothesis is that somebody poached a deer out of season, hid the carcass in our septic tank. When she came and told me this, I was like, what? Like what? Like he literally thinks somebody dumped a deer carcass in our septic tank? After inspecting it, our best guess, and we had trail cams up, and there was a large buck, a male deer that was on here, that he was rubbing his antlers or doing something with that lid and put it ajar. There certainly was no carcass in the septic tank. We're literally surrounded by thousands of acres of woods. If you had poached a deer and had the carcass, you could literally throw it anywhere. And coyotes, wolves, bears, bald eagles would dispose of it within hours. You certainly wouldn't go find a job site and throw your deer carcass down in the septic tank. So Dee and I had a great chuckle over this. I told my dad the story. He had a pretty good chuckle over this. He went to like one of his fraternal organization meetings. He told somebody this, and before he could get to the punchline, his buddy instantly says, that would be my first guess. We were like, okay, not only did one person think it's a plausible theory, that upon telling the story to someone else, their first guess was that yes, a deer poacher had actually come onto our property to hide the evidence in our septic tank. So that's the story of the septic tank lid that was askew mystery. And clearly this was a deer that was trying to get its velvet off its antlers and was using that rough concrete pillar that sticks out of the ground as a way to rub the velvet off its antlers. There was no poaching or deer carcass involved.
We have absolutely no idea what happened here this morning. Everybody we tell that we think it was deer, like a deer rubbing its antlers, doesn't believe us, but you can see Inga is fascinated by the areas that have animal hair on it, which look like deer hair. We're sticking to our guess. Also, you can see there are hoof prints all over in this area. It just is really, really weird. And also at the time, talk about we're like, where are we? We're really not where we're used to being. If this is the story people think is plausible.
Yeah, no, it was pretty shocking that, we're just like, what? Like, how is this like on people's top of mind that this would be something that could happen and didn't even have to think twice about it. This was just, yeah, it was probably somebody poached a deer and drove onto this abandoned job site and stuffed the remains of it into a septic tank. And we just said, yeah, it's kind of funny that did someone stuff a carcass in there? We have a septic tank as opposed to like a drain field, which is more traditional. All the wastewater basically for your cabins would be like your dishwater, if you have a washing machine, the wastewater from the washing machine, the wastewater from the toilet, all has to go somewhere. You have three options. One, you can do a septic tank. Nice thing about septic tanks is it's probably the cheapest option for you to do. The bad thing about septic tanks is you do have to stay on top of them and empty them before they get full. The next option you have is you can just do a drain field where basically you have a septic tank, and when the septic tank gets full, the overflow goes off into your land. But to do that, you have to have good drainage of your soil. We did not have that. We have a lot of clay in the soil.
This is a pit that was dug to see if we could have a drain system for sewage, and we can't. We're actually doing a tank. This was one of I think they did 3 holes on the property.
We're going to do a drain field. You know, the last one that you can do if you have bad soil is you can do a mound system where they bring in material and actually another tank that you know, sort of less effluent, as I like to say, will go into your soil because it doesn't drain very well. That's very expensive. So a mound system basically doubles the cost of your septic system. Basic setup like this is about $7,500, $8,000 to get a septic tank. A little bit more, a few $100s more for your drain field. If you go with a mound system, it's about double. We would have been looking at like $15,000 to $16,000. You know, we're on a budget. We're trying to get the most as we can. 2,000 gallons. It takes us about 6 months to fill that up, so it's only have to empty it a couple times a year. Currently, which is great. And even if we have to do it 3 times a year, that's a lot more economical than paying like another $8,000 to have a mound system. Someday, if we're still here in years to come, we'll probably will invest in getting a mound system. You can just extend what we have to create a mound system, but at the time, another $8,000 was pretty precious. We didn't want to invest in all that money in this. We needed other places to put it.
Is your electric hooked up here or no?
And what we were just doing this morning,
No, we're okay, but see the thing on the pipe? I'm about scheduled for Friday.
is we haven't had this tank emptied since October, was it?
Yeah, it's probably about October.
September, October. And so one of the steps we missed during the build was the back of this is an electrical line. That needs to connect to an alarm system, ideally in the bathroom, to tell you the liquid has hit the float. And we have to do that manually right now. This step was missed because how would we know? And apparently there was a box with the bobber and the alarm and everything in it that was left on a pile of insulation that went around the foundation. We didn't know it was there, and it probably got put in the dumpster when we got the dumpster. We don't know where it went off to, but we do not have that, so we have to buy a new one, and we haven't gotten to a point of priority where we can get a replacement set. It's kind of annoying right now. Hopefully it will be remedied in time, but note, if you are doing a septic system, there is this electrical line that needs to be brought into the main property, so it triggers the alarm for you, so you aren't having to manually check the sewage levels and guess, and potentially have an empty done before you need one, which costs extra money.
No, I mean, we've got room. See, that's the float.
The yellow thing?
You can see the thing on the vent pipe there. That's the float. You see it?
I think after the next trip.
I mean, you can see it's definitely been higher once before. I'd say you probably got another 500 gallons in there. And yes, 500 gallons is 500 gallons of sewage water we were just discussing.
My hope is we can get that situation remedied and eventually get the electrical and the alarm hooked up, but that's why we were pulling it back. We are about to get a washer dryer machine and our shower is about to be finished. So we've already been highly cautious with our water usage, and that's just going to continue because every drop of water you use inside, if you don't collect it in a bucket or something else, goes into this tank.
A toilet that has 2 flush modes.
So our toilet has that green knob on the handle, and that is the lower flow water usage lever. If you do the full lever, it's 1.5 gallons, and if you do the green, it's 1 gallon. So we often just use the green, and that seems to work just fine. So this is the current status of the rest facility. We are working on finishing the bathroom.
Might not sound like much, but let's say Dan and I combined go to the bathroom, just to keep the math easy, 20 times a day. That's actually 10 gallons a day we save in water going into our septic tank. In the course of a week, that's 70 gallons. In the course of a month, you're roughly about like 200 to 250 gallons saved by using the eco flush as opposed to like a normal toilet's traditional flush. Another trick that may sound a little gross, but it's not that bad, is after I take a pee, I won't flush, just let it mellow. We probably save 3 or 4 flushes a day that way. That's probably 3 gallons a day. Again, you can do the math. That's about 100 gallons a month. So between not flushing and using our eco flush, we can save 200 to 300 gallons a month of water going into our wastewater tank. That equates, that's about it's over 10% of the capacity of the tank. Each month we save just by being a little bit smart about how we use water.
Today is July 4th, 2024, and the septic tank emptying update is that in early June of 2024, we did have Amundsons come over after telling us numerous times we probably didn't need it emptied yet, and they told us what to look for. They came and emptied it and also gave me some extra tips since we don't have an alarm. And there's the float that we talked about, and they said basically if it goes horizontal, that then it's time to call. So we now know to look for that. It's not just the float being up, but horizontal. And then the back of the septic tank, there is basically a pipe. If we had a drain field that's closed up, you can see the hole for it. And he said if the fluid line gets up to the bottom of that circle, that's also a good indicator that we need to call. So Amundsons has been super helpful in resisting coming out and not having us pay more than we need to, and obviously they don't want to make more trips than they need to, and so it is now empty and should be good for the summer into the fall. And we're definitely still monitoring our water usage because we now have a functioning shower. And we have a bathroom sink that we are now using. We have a washer dryer unit that's hooked up. So we're still trying to watch our water usage and make sure that we don't get too much going into our septic tank.